All right, welcome back to Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Jones. We'll be catching you up on the games the Ducks played in the last couple weeks, and we'll be looking at the games in the coming weeks as well. And we got some injury news for you and some updates, some players being recalled that we're going to cover. And first off, we want to bring in our guests from the Section 328 podcast, Mike and Derek. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here, guys.
You know, first off, I just want to thank you guys. Those of you out there that don't know, they helped us get this up on iTunes, which I mightily struggled with. So I really appreciate you guys helping us with that.
I got to say, yeah, I mean, for as many people that have a podcast on iTunes, us idiots included, it is shockingly hard at some points to get that damn thing loaded up.
Yeah, it was not easy, but I really appreciate your guys' help.
Yeah, the more hockey talk, the better. So.
All right, well, let's get to it. I mean, this last game, the Ducks and Carolina played. It looked like in the first period the Ducks carried the play. It was 0-0, and then the end of the second, you guys carried the play. It was 2-2, and then the third period looked like you guys, with the penalties and penalty shot, you got up 4-2. I really thought you guys had us in this game.
Well, it's if I went back and watched the highlights of the first period, and if it were not for what Anton Hudobin did, which was multiple 5-bell saves, along with your boys ringing 3 or 4 off the pipes, it easily could have been 4-2 after 2. So we had great goaltending. You guys had a few bad bounces, but in the second period, the Canes do what they do, which is come out slow, traditionally on the West Coast, and jump out, and Coach Peters, gets up in their game, and that's I guess it's a polite way of putting it, and really kind of jumps in the second period. So what shocked me was the guys who were putting pucks back behind Frederik Andersen. You had the meaty fourth line, the NHL sniper line of Jay McClement and Brad Malone just taking you guys to school, and that's kind of what shocked me is how do you let McClement and Malone throw up? Both of them have multi-point games, I think, against y'all.
Mike, actually, I got to jump in there. Shockingly, this season, more shameful than letting McClement and Malone score is letting Alex Semin score.
Oh, you are right, Derek.
Yeah, they were talking about that in the game too. How he had to score for at least 20 games, and he gets his second of the season. He's making upwards of $5 million per season.
7.
That would be 7.
Oh yeah, is he still making 7 since coming from the Caps too? Wow, yeah. He's a guy who definitely we're hoping to get more than 2 goals. I was surprised that he only had 1 going into the game too.
Yeah, and that was actually his second since I think Coolidge was in office. So it had been a while for 7.
Well, not only that, he had been riding he had been riding in Coach Peters' doghouse. Semin, I believe, had 7 consecutive games after coming back from a hurt wrist, hurt back, hurt feelings of being a healthy scratch in the playoffs. So we appreciate you guys letting the enigmatic one get one by you, because gosh, there is a portion of Caniac Nation who wants nothing more than to make more excuses for why Alexander Semin is the second coming, even though he's a $7 million sniper with 2 goals, 50-some games of the season.
Yeah, and you look at the guys on the score sheet too, where you're talking about letting the fourth line come out, and the commenters in the game are talking about how they've been a spark this season. But McSemin with 2 goals on the season, he scores. McClement has 2. Jordan Stahl gets 2, his second of the season, and Malone gets his 5th on the on the penalty shot. So you look at the guys who were scoring that game, where definitely when an Eric Stahl or Jeff Skinner, Justin Falk, a guy who'd expect to be on the score sheet.
Well, and that's the thing, the guys you expect. And Jeff Skinner has been in just a horrible skid lately. And Eric was having not really a good season until Jordan come back. Since Eric's moved over to the wing and put Jordan at the center, it doesn't matter what's the third guy you put with that line. That line's been producing and been a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Kind of reminds us of a team on the West Coast that has a big center and a ginger-colored player that's been scoring a whole lot as well. You guys might know him.
Yeah, and you look at the pieces you guys have in place too. You see, Jeff Skinner's obviously having a pretty bad season for his standards, and You got guys, young pieces like Lindholm and Riley Nash and Justin Falk. What do you really see going forward that you need to make it back to the playoffs?
2 more years. But I mean, I wouldn't say Jeff Skinner's having like a Danny Heatley bad season.
Yeah.
But this team, honestly, we have guys that can contribute to a top 6, but we don't have a third line. We've got some guys now with Malone and McClement that can make a fourth line. But I'd say the bigger problem is we have a top pairing defense between Falk and Sekera, and then it just falls off a cliff. We're putting it together. We've got Hainsey and Lyles and Belmore and Murphy and Gleason, but there's no real second pairing defense there. And even though we've been holding teams to a goal a game or 2 goals a game here and there, I think this team needs more defense. And we've drafted decent, but we need more talent, for lack of a better way to put it.
Well, and if for you guys on the West Coast who may not keep up with the Hurricanes draft picks, Jim Rutherford did not like picking defensemen in the first round of the draft. Hayden Fleury being picked in the first round of the draft, I think was the first defenseman we had picked first in the draft since we had picked Igor Knyzev back in 1999 maybe.
No, we took Murphy, number 12.
Okay, yeah. So one guy, Ryan Murphy. But yeah, he was of the belief that you pick up defensemen at 22, 23, 24 years old, that you just don't waste picks on them. And if you look at our organizational depth, we have literally no organizational depth. There's also a couple of years where you're looking at bad first round draft picks. You look at Zach Dalpe, who's now bubbling around the AHL somewhere. Guys like Zach Boychuk, who not only are played on, I think now 4 NHL teams, but is a current healthy scratch for our AHL affiliate. We've just had a lot of misses in the first round. So it's going to take Ron Francis and Bill Peters a solid 2 to 3 seasons of building up some talent in this organization. And the other part is we're in a little bit of salary cap hell, with Alex Semin and John Michael Lyles sitting in the press box for multiple games. That's $11 million sitting in the press box for a team that doesn't like to spend to the cap. And then if you look at when Semin, Stahl, and when Semin, Eric, and Jordan were on the ice together, that's about a $22 million line backed up by an $8.5 million goaltender in Cam Ward that's been spending half of his time on the bench. So Cam Ward in the first line's $30 million for a small market team. And both of the 2 of those 4 are scratches more nights than not.
Yeah, and you're looking at the draft and you're seeing where you guys are in the standings, and obviously Buffalo and Edmonton have pretty much locked up at least the best chance for the first 2 picks. Do you see if you guys end up winning the lottery, would you, obviously McDavid's hard to pass up on, but with you guys needing defense, is Hanifin really the number 1 target, or if, an Eichel or McDavid is available, you don't pass up on a guy like McDavid?
I don't think there's any way you could pass up on Eichel or McDavid. Hanifin, I think, if you look back to this most recent year's draft where Ekblad went number 1, Hanifin would go number 1 that year, possibly. But a guy who's a difference maker, like everybody talks about McDavid or Eichel, I think you'd be a damn fool to pass up on both of them. I think, Mike, you might jump in here and kind of reaffirm this, but picking number 2 might be the better spot in that you can't make a mistake there.
Yeah.
Unless of course Jack Eichel turns out to be Ryan Leaf. But yeah, I mean it's the first pick is just no one's passing up on McDavid. If you guys haven't gone and watched his clips, it is just things of beauty. I really enjoy Eichel's game. Eichel's more Jonathan Toews and McDavid is more Jesus. But it's just Hanifin's good, but Hanifin, it's debatable whether Hanifin is even Ekblad good, and is he going to be able to come in and make that first year impact where you don't want to be picking is 4.
Yeah.
And right now that's the spot we sit in. So God, please come to Carolina and take 2 points from us.
Yeah, and arguably you want to see Lindholm eventually move into the center spot. Later down in his career, obviously he's a rookie right now, so he's playing on the wing. But if you see Eichel or McDavid come to Carolina, does that spell the end from one of the centers there? Or do you keep Stahl on the wing with Jordan in the middle, and eventually push Lindholm into the center with Eichel and McDavid coming in as well?
Well, I think based upon what we've heard from Ron Francis and Bill Peters, that Eric Stahl, for the duration of his tenure here in Carolina, is going to be a wing. He is currently 30 years old, but he is a very old 30. He hasn't missed a lot of games. He had a couple of really good Ironman streaks, but he hasn't missed a lot of hockey, and there's a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah, if with Eric Stahl going to be on the wing and everything, do you guys see a little bit of improvement next season? Obviously, if some guys pick it up with Skinner, hopefully having a better season, and Lindholm having another season on his belt, Falk having another good season too. Where do you guys realistically see yourselves next season? In the bottom, fighting for a playoff spot, picking up that last 8th spot, or?
I would say a lot of it depends on what moves happen prior to the deadline or at the deadline and then at the draft this year. There's been a lot of talk this week about Andrej Sekera is not having negotiations take place with the team, and Mike and I have talked on several podcasts that he's gone for the rest of the year. So it's just a matter of what do we get back for him. Yuri Tolusti's probably going to go. What do we get back for him? Are they picks that could possibly turn into something to build the system? Are they players that could possibly fill in a third line next year or a second defensive pairing? What sort of things we're going to get back? I think those will play a key for next year. But I think most of the players are buying in pretty well to Bill Peters' system, and I truly think this year is the lowest point in the next 3 to 4 for this team, barring some sort of horrible injury or just napalm hitting the front office.
And they come up on the 12th. We got a game again against you guys. I'm kind of hoping it's not going to be as close as last time, but you never know. With Anderson going down, we might have to start Bizgalov, which is been pretty bad every start he's had this season. Hopefully,
why you have to be mad? It's only hockey. It's just a game.
I know.
Yeah. And by the way, since we have some Ducks guys on the podcast here, we want to give a hearty middle finger to Frederik Andersen's agent.
Yeah, you guys were the original ones to draft him, weren't you? And then
we were, and he said, this was not a place that Frederik Andersen could succeed, and this, that, the other thing. So thanks.
Well, you had to be fair, at the time, Cam Ward was a pretty elite goaltender in the NHL.
What 3 weeks was that?
But no, yeah, and then Anderson obviously comes here. But realistically, this week, do you see it being another tight game? I wouldn't be surprised with you guys are on a 2-game winning streak right now, starting to play some better hockey with Stahl being on the wing. So I think it's going to be a better game coming up this week.
I think it's going to be interesting because we've got a nice little 3-day break here. We had Ryan Murphy. Ryan Murphy went down on the West Coast road trip, and sounds like he could be gone for not a matter of games, but for a matter of weeks. And if it's a young guy with nothing to gain on the season, they may be shutting him down. And this may be, I think everyone's kind of waiting for the first trade to fall, and you look at a solid 4-day break for a team like ours, and this could be that opportunity to potentially make a couple of moves. So if this team is as they sit currently today, there is no reason on God's green earth that we should be able to hang with Getzlaf, Perry, Kessler, Lindholm, Devontae Pelly. What can we trade? Let's go ahead. What can we trade you guys for Devontae Pelly-Smith right now? Cam Ward, Devontae Pelly-Smith. You want it? Let's trade. Straight up.
I don't know.
What can we do?
If Cam Ward's going to be probably a little bit better backup than Bizgalov, but really looking at the team, maybe a defenseman, that's it. But Devontae Smith-Pelly he's not going to fetch much for what the Ducks would be looking for right now. But with the trade deadline coming up, there's a lot of rumors around, obviously, Vander Kane for the Ducks, Tyler Myers, Fowler, Franson, Beleskey. What about you guys? I haven't heard much rumors coming for you. What are you looking to add realistically at the deadline?
We're looking to add some hopes, some dreams, maybe a bottle of Jaeger.
Draft picks and all of the draft
Edmonton's
picks.
first round pick, Buffalo's first round pick.
Those two. Yeah, we've seen the rumors about you guys in the Evander Kane sweepstakes and the Tyler Myers sweepstakes. And at what point will the Ducks have enough size? I mean, are you trying to monopolize everybody that's over 6'3" and 210? Can you share that around the league? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the deal, though. I mean, for us, if we go back to 2007, we won with, Pronger on the team. And that's what a lot of the fan base is asking Eddy and I is that, hey, we need to get a 6-foot monster at the blue line. And that's just what our fan base keeps focusing on. Why? I don't know. But that's just, they think that's going to solve everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you need somebody who doesn't need a job anymore at the paper, you can get Chris Pronger back.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you're talking, if you're looking around at cheap options, a guy who's on a 1-year contract with us and has had a fairly decent season for a guy who was abjectly horrible last year. Tim Gleason's a guy who will come out, he'll lay the body. He's got a lot of playoff experience, and again, just has been a solid player for the Canes. He'd be the type of guy where, you're not going to slot him into a top 4 role by any means, but a guy who'd be great in the locker room, decent on the penalty kill, and can roll out, 11, 12 minutes a night on that third pairing, and,
gritty playoff
some of your bigger guys. Yeah, gritty playoff veteran. And he could be yours for a 3rd-round draft pick if the price is right.
So a lot of the guys we've picked up lately have been those types of guys. Stoner in the off season, we still have Fistrix. Picked up Eric Brewer for a 3rd-round draft pick too from Tampa Bay. So I think a lot of fans are looking at the Tyler Myers is, obviously he's a little taller than Pronger at 6'8", but one of those guys to come in. But he's with Buffalo, so you can't really look at him and be like and judge his play so far. But bringing in a guy like that is really what the fans I think are looking for.
Well, I would caution you that Tyler Myers is 6'8" and traditionally plays somewhere around 5'11.5".
Yeah.
He's good on the power play. He's got a nice big shot, but he is, as much as we hate Chris Pronger in Carolina, and we're thoroughly excited to beat him for a Stanley Cup in 2006 that he and his wife, I'm sure, went home and cried over. I am just, Tyler Myers, if your fans are looking for that dude, newsflash, he's not that dude.
Yeah.
He's
Exactly.
he's a soft 6'7".
Yeah, he is a rangier Hal Gill.
Yeah, and with the prices that have been quoted out too, a lot of people are, Cam Fowler's name has been mentioned around in anywhere, any trades going back with Myers, and a lot of people seem to be okay with that. I know me and Mike pretty much laughed at that when I came up in some reports the other day.
No, you don't want to get rid of Cam Fowler for Tyler Myers.
Hell no.
Mike mentioned that you guys might want Tim Gleason, and I will throw out a trade target if you have yet another 3rd to 4th round pick you're willing to part with. We have a tremendous penalty killer, really fast, gritty 3rd to 4th line guy. Doesn't really have any hands, but surprisingly can score well on a breakaway. Patrick Dwyer. So if you're in the market, go ahead and pass that on, and we'll be happy to make a deal.
Not a lot of folks know Canes are currently, I think, 2nd or 3rd in the NHL or in penalty kill. We've killed something ridiculous. What was the last number, Derek? Like 48 out of 49, 49 out of 50 penalties.
It's pretty nuts. Yeah, we're actually 2nd behind Chicago, 87.2 on the kill.
Yeah, you guys are awesome at the penalty kill.
Which is weird.
Yeah, well, you look at the Ducks too, though. The last 2 seasons, I believe last season too, were around the middle of the pack in both their special teams, and something that we've looked to improve on in the playoffs too. And we've got the pieces with at least for the power play with obviously Getzlaf, Perry, Kessler, Lindholm, Vatanen, Fowler, and just can't seem to get it to work. And then on the penalty kill, it's pretty much the same story. But it's kind of interesting to see and weird to see a team that consider the top of the NHL and then sit middle of the pack with all the special teams. And it's something that we can't really seem to wrap our head around.
Well, particularly with the talent that you've got. I mean, there is no reason for, we have a saying here in Carolina, put somebody in front of the net and good things happen. If I had Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, and Ryan and Kessler, if I didn't have 600 pounds of Canadian / American in front of the net on every power play, as Boost Boudreaux, I would be losing my flipping mind.
That's
Why there is not two guys in front of the net on every power play befuddles me with the Ducks.
That's exactly what Eddie and I have talked about. Every time we talk about the power play woes, we're like, what is with all this fancy passes and playing around the perimeter? Get one or two guys in front of the net and just screen the hell out of the other team's goalie.
So if you need, Google Dave Andrewchuk, see if he's available to run a workshop on a Saturday afternoon.
Somebody's got to teach Boudreaux not to run the 1-3-1 anymore on the power play. It's not working.
Exactly.
Put Maroon in front of the net.
Yeah.
Well, the 1-3-1's great. The problem is you don't have Alex Ovechkin on the off wing.
Mm-hmm. You could probably put a guy like Perry there. We haven't tried it out though, but every time Ovi seems to score a goal, it's a one-timer from the circle on the power play. So it's the type of guy we need.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if you have a coach who knows how that kind of thing. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I know a guy. Maybe he coached Alex Ovechkin for a couple seasons. I don't think we have a guy like that.
Good God.
Oh boy. Yeah, thank you guys for coming on. I'm hoping the game coming up on the 12th is going to be a little bit better. Well, a little bit better game for us. It was a little intense last time, but obviously
we hope the same thing for you guys.
Well, yeah, because you guys want to get a lower pick. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll hope to talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, boys. Good luck in the playoffs.
Cool. Thanks for having us.
All right. Thanks to Mike and Derek for coming on the show. If you want to follow them, they're on Twitter at section_328. They catch all the Canes action, or if you want to listen to just any hockey talk, especially East Coast related, follow them. And speaking of the East Coast, Eddie, we had the Ducks go to Nashville for a big game after the Carolina game. And this is really a tale of, two types of Ducks teams in this game. I mean, we started out strong and finished poorly, and we ended up coming up with the 5-2 win against Pecorine back after injury.
Well, yeah, isn't the season the tale of two Ducks teams, really? Or the tale of two periods, really? I think that's probably the best way to describe it. The Ducks can seem to play 40 minutes in most games and then fall apart in one period. First, second, third, take your pick. And in this one, it was the third, and it's probably the worst period that the Ducks have played all season, getting outshot 24-2. And if Anderson wasn't in that on his game that night, then the Ducks could have easily blown that 4-0 lead and lost this game. And luckily they secured that cushion. Nashville fought back and had a lot of chances to score, and thanks to Freddie, we were able to stay in it. Obviously, Silfverberg picking up the shorty and Vatanen picking up one to bring us up 2-0, and then Beleskey and Silfverberg picking up two more goals in the second. Then obviously the third period rolls around and all hell breaks loose, and Colin Wilson and James Neal score, but Freddie keeps us in it, and Perry ends up getting empty netted, and we win 5-2, but a lot closer than it should have been, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the news came out, last minute we didn't have Ryan Getzlaf for this game, and we still didn't know what would happen. We just knew it was a lower body injury, so that was, not good news to start off, especially going against Nashville. And then, we come out, and Silfverberg picked up the play big time with an awesome shorthanded goal, and then followed it up in the second period. He even almost had a hat trick on one or two occasions later on in the game, Eddie.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see when a guy like Getzlaf goes out of the team. And we saw obviously when Perry was out of the team, Getzlaf was the guy to pick it up, and obviously Beleskey and other guys. And we see Beleskey score here, and Silfverberg pot too, so that's good. And all in all, this is a big game. Even though the third period was bad, we still got both 2 points, picked up a win, and against a team who was right behind us in the standings. For put us first in NHL at the time. Obviously now with the recent 2 games that we've played, it's put us behind Nashville. But it was a big win against a good team, and with an MVP candidate and Pecorine in that when we were able to put 4 goals past them, it's a pretty good night.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a team, that is one, if the Ducks get past the first and second round, they could end up facing Nashville in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and, with Rene maybe a little bit less rusty, obviously, that was his first game back, and with Getzlaf in the lineup, it'll be a whole different situation, but it's going to be a tough team. Any matchup in the West, I think, is going to be a tough team. Even Calgary, Vancouver, Winnipeg, those are still going to be tough teams to play, and Any game in the NHL isn't an easy win, so we'll have to see come playoff time. But yeah, Nashville is definitely a possible second round opponent, maybe even a Western Conference Final opponent, depending on how everything works out.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be one to watch definitely down the stretch, like you said, especially when Rene gets rid of the rust. And then the Ducks, after coming off this big win, had back to back. They had to go to Washington and play the Capitals. And again, we went in a game and Getzlaf couldn't play again, and kind of the same situation. The tale of two periods. I mean, that's kind of what's been going on, lately, and most of the season. But we ended up getting tied 1-1 after two periods, and it looked like things were okay. And then it seemed like the beginning of the third, we kind of fell into that same mode, Eddie, where the Ducks were really getting hemmed in, playing a lot of defense. We got outshot again in the third, 13-6. Luckily, Perry pulled off a redirect goal to send us to overtime.
Yeah, and the first period looked really good. Kessler ends up picking on the power play. The Caps played some good defense, but the Ducks looked the stronger team. And then we move into the second period, and we kind of come out kind of sloppy. Chimera obviously picks up a goal. Play picked up a bit, but it was an overall not that good of a period. And third period obviously kind of turned out the same way. So and Perry he saves the day with a tip in, and then our shootout hero he scored a goal, but nobody else could score, and Kuznetsov and Backstrom ended up winning the game for the Caps. It's not as bad. We still pick up a point against a pretty good Capitals team, and keeping Ovechkin off the score sheet was probably a main goal of the game, but still losing the game is not good, and getting outshot again, putting Briz obviously getting the start. He wasn't too bad. He stopped 32 of 34 shots, so we can't really blame Brizgalov this game. That was his best game of the season, probably his only good game of the season, which is something we're gonna need now, especially with Anderson being day to day, and we'll talk later about Gibson being recalled as well. But disappointing not to get the win, but and hopefully with the game coming up against them this week, or next week, we'll have a win against them.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit frustrating. I mean, I was happy the way Brizgalov played because, a lot of people are fed up with Brizgalov, and, I understand, I get it. He's not played well. Let's be honest, he's only, played well in two games, and one of them was really because the Ducks defense stepped up back, against New Jersey, and then this one he played much better. I think a lot of fans are still okay with the point. No Getzlaf again, back-to-back games, so we got 3 out of 4. So I think that was not bad going into this road trip. But then we go to Tampa and another top team in the East this time that we're playing. And man, the first period we just laid an egg. I'm sorry. I mean, we gave up 3 goals. Anderson was in net. Getzlaf played in this game. But you can't really fault Anderson. It's just the team defense in that first period was atrocious, Eddie.
Yeah, and this is one of the worst games defensively I've seen the Ducks play all season. The first goal, Victor Hedman splits Jackman and Maroon, and then he walks around Stoner, who proceeds to lay on the ice and not really do anything. And then Hedman cuts back out front and lays off a pass for Brian Boyle, who scores. And then the Filppula goal is not much better either. Brewer has a chance to clear the puck in front of the net, doesn't do it, and puck lands at Filppula right in front of the net, and he's got an easy goal. And both of those you can't put on Anderson either. And then for the third goal in that period as well, Kucherov sneaks in behind Fowler, who gets burned, and he has an easy tap in on the far post against Anderson. So, 3 bad plays by our defense, and you're down 3-0 in the first period, and couldn't recover from there. Getzlaf gets a lucky bounce in the second period. And then the bad luck continues with Brian Boyle getting a scramble in front of the net, him potting a goal, and then Ryan Callahan obviously finishing off the Tampa's night for scoring in the third period. A little bit of fight back eventually, a better second, even though Tampa still scored, and then obviously a lot better third period, out shooting them 12-4, and picking up two goals, but Ryan Callahan still scoring on a 2-on-1 So we're gonna have to play a lot better than that. And defensively, we've talked about it all season, where everybody's looking for that Pronger type of guy. Do we need to make a trade? Do we not? At times, it hasn't seemed like we had to, but after this game, the question rears its head again.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we got burned badly, not once or twice, but 3 or 4 times in this game. And to add insult to injury, Anderson gets hurt. You have that play where Lindholm crashes into the net. The net that goes forward, the crossbar hits Frederik Anderson in the back of the head. He gets knocked down. He's not knocked out, but he's obviously dazed as Brizgalov comes in. And then we get, the word the next day that he's fine. And then the big news comes out from Kevin Weeks, from the NHL network, that Gibson's been recalled. So now we're going to have to see. I haven't gotten an official word, but what I've heard is that Anderson suffered some type of concussion from what happened, Eddie.
Yeah, and from what I've heard too, after that game, that him and Lindholm are day to day, and obviously today with Gibson being recalled. According to TSN's website, at least it says Anderson is day to day with an upper body injury, which could be a concussion, and Lindholm's day to day with a lower body injury. So we're hoping to see those guys come back. Obviously, Anderson's really important to the team, and so is Lindholm, especially with how bad the defense has played so far. So I hope we're getting those guys back. Hopefully for the game against Florida. If not, for the game against Carolina, will be important. With Gibson being called up, it's a little bit of a worry because with Anderson's probably not going to play this next game for a precaution. So, but seeing Gibson get a start is going to be good. Obviously, a lot of people wanted to see that with how bad Brizgal's played lately, but I'm sure everybody hopes Anderson will be back as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and I think you're right. I mean, we'll talk about the previews and what's coming up in the next week here. But yeah, I would think Gibson may be the one that plays maybe 1 or 2 of these games. One good note that did come out of that Tampa Bay loss was, Ryan Getzlaf got his 200th goal, Eddie. Even, they had to review it. It took him a while, obviously, to figure out it went off the Tampa defender's foot. But, that's a good milestone for Getzlaf, and I'm sure he doesn't really care as far as, I mean, he cares about getting the 200 goal, but I'm sure he'd rather have gotten the win. But still a big thing for Getzlaf.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure after the game when he was asked about it, he said he'd rather get the win too. But when he reflects on it, he's gonna, it's a big achievement, and it's a guy who's been, not obviously he's not been a goal scorer for us, but he's almost a point per game player in his career, and a big milestone for him, and a big congratulations from everybody, all the Ducks fans, I'm sure.
Yeah, now we look forward to the coming games, and the Ducks got to regroup basically because we're going to be playing Florida, and like we said, we don't know the exact status on Anderson and Lindholm, but I wouldn't be surprised if Gibson probably starts this game against Florida, Eddie.
Yeah, and this isn't Florida like last year where you would joke about playing Florida. This is a team who is in 9th place in the Eastern Conference, fighting for a playoff spot. We got a good goaltender this season in Luongo, some solid, improvement from their key young players, Barkov and Huberdeau and Bukestad, Peary, Ekblad. You can name off a bunch of them. It's a pretty young team, and it's going to be a hard team to come against. They're pretty quick, can be physical. So with hoping having everybody healthy, and if Gibson's going to play that game, he has to have a strong game too. This isn't going to be easy. This isn't the Florida of last year. So it's going to be a tough game, and you don't want to lose 2 in a row again for the second time in a couple of weeks. You want to get a win here and string a couple together and get back first in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if Hampus is out and Brewer and Stoner both play, I mean, they're really going to have to pick up the game because the way the defense has gone for both of those two in their passing, it's not cutting it out. And I mean, I don't really want to see the Ducks have to play both those guys. At this point, I'm kind of like, just bring up Fistrick and put him in for this game. I just don't have a lot of confidence in those two guys, Eddie.
Yeah, and I would like to see that too. It was one really bad game, obviously the Tampa Bay game, and it's not like they've been amazing all season. Stoner's had his moments. Brewer's been okay. He had a pretty decent game when he came back from injury, but if they're gonna play this game, we're gonna have to see improvement. And I'm sure if we don't see any, and management doesn't see any, one of them's gonna get sent benched, and Fisher will be called up. And you got to remember too, after the trade deadline, the roster limit is unlimited basically. So Fistrick might be a guy who gets called up and just gets healthy scratched every night, or and called in on nights when the Ducks need him, when other guys aren't stepping up. So we'll see guys like Fistrick and Edom and other guys get called up and probably playing more often than they are now.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up, Eddie. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about the trade rumors and whatnot's been going out with the Ducks right now. And then after Florida, we got Carolina again. And as you guys saw from last week, the guys from Section 328 joke about losing and going for draft picks and stuff, but they're no joke. I mean, they just beat Arizona and they beat San Jose. They also beat Tampa Bay, a little while ago too. I mean, they haven't been losing that many games lately, Eddie.
No, and they're 6-2-2 in their last 10, which is a lot better than most of the other teams down in the bottom part of the standings. And they are a pretty good team. They have some offense, and they've got star players in Stahl and Skinner, who can be a star player, and hasn't been that great this season. And some young guys in Lindholm and Justin Falk, who has had a great season this far, made the All-Star team, but they just got to get those pieces. Obviously, you heard Mike and Derek talk about how they need to add to their defense and get a third line, but they're not that bad of a team. And Cam Ward obviously hasn't been the same since they won the cup and a couple years after. So, well, and Khudobin can have his night too, but it really should be a game that we should be winning. And hopefully for them, they want the loss, we want the win. So hopefully it works out for both of us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the way that that we hope it goes for both sides of this game. So yeah, I mean, it's only be a couple games this week, and then we'll preview our next podcast. Washington coming to town, and I'll be at that game obviously, and we'll talk more about it on the next podcast. What about the trade rumor news that's been going on? People have been just basically going crazy on social media about Tyler Myers and Franson and Kane and all these people. What do you got going on as far as what have you been hearing, Eddie?
I've been hearing a lot lately, more than normal, really. Beleskey's name has been mentioned around. Franson has been a big rumor for the Ducks. Kane, which has kind of died down now since that he's on the IR for surgery. I believe shoulder surgery. He's going to be out for 4 to 6 months. So there are rumors that he still might get moved, but it'll be more than likely to a team like Ottawa or Arizona, somebody who needs a forward who's out of the picture, because Winnipeg will be looking to add pieces that can help them, and obviously Kane is a guy who can't help them at all now since he's out for 4 to 6 months. So don't look for the Ducks to be in for Kane anymore. Myers is a big name that just came out, and I don't know how I feel too much about Myers. That seems to be the most likely rumor, along with Franson. And with Myers, with Fowler and other players rumored to go the other way, I really don't see a whole lot of potential in Tyler Myers. He's obviously a young player, and he's playing in a bad team. But the Sabres are going to be looking for top dollar for him, and they're going to be looking for as much as they can get, because they're not in a spot where they need to sell. He's a young defenseman. They see him as the cornerstone of their franchise. So if he gets moved, I'd be surprised. But I really don't think the Ducks need to go for him. We heard Mike and Derek talk about how he's a 6'8" guy who plays like a 5'11" player, and you see that he doesn't have a huge physical aspect to his game. He has a hard shot, but he doesn't play that imposing style that you see from a guy like Chara. And we need a big defensive defenseman, some guy who's going to log in those penalty killing minutes, who's going to be a big presence, who can chip in a couple goals on the power play. And that's something I don't see him bringing in. I definitely see Cam Fowler being worth more than Tyler Myers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, obviously, if you looked on my Twitter, I put out some funny photos about all the trade rumors and whatnot, and because I'm just kind of like, we need to relax, everybody. I don't, I'm not happy, obviously, with the way Brewer and Stoner played, especially in that Tampa Bay game. But like I said, it's a game, and we talked about, just one game. I think going forward, we can't have both of them out there too many times, and I don't know if there's anything going on with Lovejoy, because Lovejoy hasn't played in 2 of the last 3 games. So I'm not sure if there's something going on with him. I haven't heard anything about that either. Just like with Getzlaf, they said that he had that lower body injury that had kind of been nagging him before and gotten worse. Because, they don't tell us everything, and they obviously categorize everything as upper or lower body, which, can mean whatever unless we actually see the play for what happens. So, I'm not big on Franson or Myers. I mean, not for the prices they're asking, at least, Eddie.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna look to a defenseman, for a defenseman, we should look to a team like Arizona. They've got Yandle's rumored to be on the market, McCallick's rumored to be on the market. Their GM recently came out and said nobody's untouchable, but I find it hard to believe that Oliver Ekman-Larsson is. I'm sorry, nobody's untouchable. I find it hard to believe that Ekman-Larsson is untouchable. I feel like he's an all-star defenseman this season. He's a guy they're gonna want to keep around. I would love a guy like Ekman-Larsson on the team, but he would cost a lot to bring over. Yandle's a realistic option, but is he another offensive defenseman? Is he gonna be able to play the defense that we need? I still think he'd be definitely an upgrade on Brewer and Stoner and even Lovejoy and some of the other guys we've got in there, and even McCallick would be a good option. So if we're gonna look anywhere, I think we should look there. And they're looking for offense. A guy like Edom, dangle him in front of them. As much as I want to see, I want to give Edom more of a chance. His chances are running out, and maybe he'd be a good piece to send back the other way.
Yeah, I mean, that is the question. A lot of people are asking if we do trade, who do we send? And I think Edom is up there. And then obviously probably some type of draft pick. I wouldn't want to do a first rounder, but you never know. It might be a second or third rounder or something like that. It's going to be some kind of a package deal if the Ducks do make a move, Eddie.
Yeah, and then obviously that's why Beleskey's been rumored, because we have to sign him, and it's do the Ducks want to pay what he's gonna want? And with already 20 goals this season, if he gets anywhere close to 30, he has his agent is gonna want to get him as much money as possible, and it's do we pay the maybe upwards of $4 million that he's gonna ask for? I can't say for sure that's how much he's gonna ask for, but the Ducks will obviously look at his past seasons and say he hasn't done this every season, but he's done it this season, and he'll say he can do it more. And do we pay the money for Beleskey to keep him, or do we move him out before the deadline, or because you won't move him out of the draft, which will be a lot harder, or re-sign him? It's going to be a tough situation with guys that we're going to have to sign soon. A lot of RFAs coming up, so Beleskey's future is definitely a big thing to watch for before the deadline's over.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for those of you that don't know, the deadline's coming up on March 2nd. So, we have, just under a month to go. And I really can't wait till we get past that time, because frankly, I don't care about the rumors anymore, Eddie. I'm just like, let's just keep doing what we got to do. And if there's something that we can get on defense for a good deal, I'm down. But please don't sell the farm.
Yeah, exactly. And some pieces, like I said, there's not many pieces that are available, and a lot of people have been saying the Ducks should pick up some more draft picks where they can for some of the fringe players that we have. Obviously giving up a third round pick for Brewer, and how the Ducks are built is by drafting and having a fair amount of draft picks and drafting well and adding to the farm and keeping it stocked so you can bring up players through the system. And obviously, I think adding on maybe another third round pick, fourth for getting our third back, would be a good option as well if we're not going to pick up a defenseman. So those are things they can explore, and but I don't see them doing much on the deadline, if anything.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eddie. I don't see them doing too much either. and then going forward, injury news wise, I mean, we kind of covered everything. We got Anderson out right now, day to day. Gibson recalled. Lindholm's also day to day, a lower body injury. And just the other one that I threw out there that I'm thinking something's going on, but I don't know. Lovejoy, he's been out the last 2 out of 3 games, so I don't know if he's either sick or got an injury or something going on. But I think those are the only injury news updates I got, Eddie.
Yep, that's pretty much all that's been going on. Other than that, we're still waiting the confirmation for the new AHL team, if it's going to be the San Diego Gulls or not. We know the junior team that had the name has been changed to the San Diego Sabres, so it's opened the door for the team to be called the Gulls. Do you want them to be called the Gulls and keep the history, or do you see any maybe a name change coming in?
No, I mean, we put out a little post on there, and some of our AHL sources are saying that it's going to be the San Diego Gulls. Obviously, with the junior team, as you mentioned, changing the name, which I don't want people to get confused because there's a junior San Diego Gulls team that's switching to the Sabres next year. So that's why if you go out there and Google, and you see Gulls already, you're like, well, there already is a Gulls. There is, but it's a junior minor league team, not an AHL type team. So a couple of the sources are saying that that's the name. I know the official name will be, unveiled on the 22nd at the Hockey Fest that they're going to have down in San Diego. I'm pretty sure that's the name, Eddie. The Gulls have been in San Diego going back to the 60s. Obviously, they left for a short time, and then they were back in the mid-90s all the way up till 2006. And it seems like the reaction from everybody is they're pretty happy about that name. Some people mentioned variations like seagulls instead of gulls, something like that, or some other, bird type thing. Some people are irritated too and told me that it should be the Admirals. But the problem is my AHL source in Norfolk told me that they're getting another team and they're keeping the name Admirals. So that's why everything points towards the Gulls as being the name.
Yeah, and starting next season obviously is when they're going to be part of an AHL team, and obviously we're going to cover them a bit more because they're closer to at least where you are, and they're now owned by the Anaheim Ducks, so it's a little bit more. It feels a little bit more appropriate to talk about them, and obviously with all the rookies moving over there and it being a lot closer, we'll try to have some people on who can cover any people in San Diego who can cover those games more closely, Ducks fans and obviously Gulls fans, which will be definitely a huge improvement on the AHL system and being able to call the guys up before easier before a game.
Oh, definitely, especially on the home games. It's going to make it a lot easier. My wife and I go to San Diego anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 times a year, so we plan on going to some of those games as well. And for those of you listening, if you're interested in joining us and writing about the Gulls and the Ducks, you can just shoot us an email at DucksNPucks@usamail.com. I've already got 3 or 4 other people that are going to be joining us and covering the Gulls and hopefully the Ducks as well. So there's an opportunity for that. You can just send me that email and then I can give you some more details. I don't want to go over the long drawn out thing on this right now, but we can talk about it. And, it's going to be a good time, and it's definitely going to benefit the team, having them a lot closer, Eddie, especially, on the West Coast and being only an hour and a half, give or take, with traffic drive.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a lot easier for, calling up guys like Edom and stuff next year. And, if Nick Ritchie's there, could at least other guys to call up. It's going to be a lot closer to home for the Ducks, so it'll be easier for sure. And obviously we gotta pick the 3 stars for the week coming, and I think an obvious pick for his first star is Perry. He obviously was named the NHL second star for the week, so that's an obvious pick. Who would you pick for the next 2 who's had a solid week in your opinion?
The next 2 that I would go with, even though he's been out some of the games, I would go with Getzlaf. He's had 2 goals and 2 assists and the big 200th career goal as a Duck as well. So I would put him in there as one of them. And then I would also go with Silverberg. He had that big game in Nashville with 2 goals, and he's also added a couple assists in his last couple games. And as we saw in Washington, he's still rolling on the shootouts, just killing it. And he's picked it up, and I hope that he keeps the secondary scoring going, Eddie.
Yeah, definitely. He's a guy that we hope to have. I believe at the beginning of the season we hoped to have around 20, and even possibly with his release and his great shot and his speed on a line with Kessler, we were hoping he would reach close to 30. Hasn't been the story this season, but I still believe he's a guy that can get up into those 20, 25 goals. And hopefully this will spark a good rest of the season for him.
Yeah, exactly. And just if you haven't seen it out there too, we've got our shirts that we've been working on. We came up with another one, the Silver Bullet shirt that we released. We've got it in orange and black, so it's also up on the website on DNPhockey.com. So that one has just come out. And then we also have a discount going right now for the Perry shirt with him being named the second star. We have a 20% discount if you go on the website and you go to the checkout. Just put in the checkout code Scory Perry, and you can get a big sizable discount on that. That'll only run for the next day or two. And just the last little bit here is I went by the Honda Center a week ago on Monday and to pick up some stuff really quick during my lunch break, and I actually ran into some of the players, Eddie, and was fortunate to get some photos. And I know some people ask me, and I'll throw this out there, but usually what happens is the Ducks practice at home the day before the home games, and that's when fans can go park in the parking lot and wait for the players. There's no real set time, but it's usually late morning to lunchtime. I got fortunate; they were coming out right then, so I ended up getting a few photos. But that's the first time I ever did that. I was actually going to the team store to buy some Solani stuff, of all things.
Yeah, and I know they do that here too, and obviously a little bit easier to do. It's kind of more laid back there. I've been to the Leafs a couple times with some of my friends who are Leafs fans, and most of the Leafs players just kind of blow by, and that's nothing to say for them. Maybe it was just a bad day for that we were out there, but it's nice to see the players come out and sign autographs for the fans, and you got lucky and got someone you weren't even there for that, and you went out and you ended up getting a couple pictures, which is good to see from the players.
Oh yeah, and they're for the most part, I would say 9 out of 10 of them are super friendly. 1 or 2 came out on their cell phones and were kind of doing their own thing, but you can pretty much ask them politely for a photo or an autograph, and they're more than happy to do so. Yeah, and just the last part here, make sure you follow the blog and the podcast. We're giving away Ducks tickets to the Ducks Oilers game and the Ducks Stars game, which is that one's the fan appreciation night. If you follow the blog or the podcast, you'll be entered 1 time to win. If you follow both, then you have 2 chances to win. So just make sure you get on that, and we'll announce the winners towards the end of March. And thanks for following us, and we'll be back next week.
The Anaheim Ducks are the Stanley Cup champions.